As the world closely watched, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin held their first ever summit talks in Vladivostok. The two shared friendly messages showing off their long tradition of being close allies, with both the leaders showing support for each other. For further analysis of the Kim-Putin summit, Dr. Ko Myung-hyun of Asan Institute for Policy Studies once again joins us in the studio. Thank you for coming back.
My pleasure.
This was the first North Korea-Russia summit in 8 years. The last was when Kim Jong-un's father, the late Kim Jong-il, met with then Russian President Dmitry Medvedev.
Yeah.
How have things changed since the 2011 summit?
Well, so one obvious change is that Russia has a new president. I mean, even back then, President Putin was the real power behind the scenes. So, but formally, Russia has a new president to meet with Kim Jong-un. But then what really changed, it happened to be the situation in the Korean Peninsula. Back in 2011, North Korea hadn't really completed its nuclear development. That's when North Korea had just tested 2 nuclear devices. And there was some hope that North Korea would still embark in a path of denuclearization and also in order to develop its economy. So that has completely changed by now. We have a new situation, so to speak, in the Korean Peninsula. North Korea is a de facto nuclear state, and North Korea wants to be acknowledged as the official one now. And that really changed the tone of the meeting between Russian President Putin and Kim Jong-un.
Now, despite Kim and Putin's huge age difference, I hear Putin is almost double the age of Kim Jong-un, I think they do have quite a few similar traits. What do you make of the chemistry between the pair?
It's pretty positive so far. I mean, even though it's the first time that Putin and Kim Jong-un are meeting each other, we have seen that they feel, and it looks like they're feeling comfortable. And probably that's due to the fact that the history of Russia and North Korea go way back. I mean, we know that the former Soviet Union, which became Russia, former Soviet Union was the one that helped Kim Jong-un's grandfather, Kim Il-sung, to come to power and be the, actually found the entire DPRK, I mean, Democratic People's Republic of Korea in 1948. So the bond between the two countries is actually really deep. So I think the chemistry between the two leaders reflects this past shared history.
Now, today, just ahead of the Kim-Putin summit, a fire broke out in Russia's eastern region, which which delayed the summit for about an hour. So people were expecting that Putin would be late for about an hour, but it was Kim Jong-un who actually appeared late to the summit.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you make of that?
Well, that was like a very unique case. I mean, President Putin is known to keep other leaders waiting for him. I mean,
right.
In extreme cases, where leaders have been known to wait for Putin for like more than an hour. But probably Kim Jong-un must be the first case when it was actually Putin waiting for some other leader. So this was a very unique situation. And then to me, that was remarkable because that shows that in many ways, Kim Jong-un really understands the symbolism of who comes first and wait for the other person. And given that North Korea is a way smaller country than Russia, and the fact that North Korea is probably Vladivostok to ask for a very strong support for diplomatic approach and some sort of economic assistance, it shows like how confident, I mean, North Korean leader knows how to use confidence as a leverage too.
Now, moving on to the press briefing that was held by Vladimir Putin soon after the banquet. Now, in what could be a disappointment to Kim Jong-un, Putin has said that Russia maintains similar stance with the U.S. when it comes to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
So,
what's your thoughts on that?
I think President Putin was referring to the fact that, Russia is not going to acknowledge North Korea as an official nuclear state ever. I mean, this came up before as well. I mean, the most recently, and then in March, Russia's ambassador to the United States made such a similar remark at a conference in Washington that Russia would never acknowledge North Korea as an official nuclear state. So sure, like North Korea must be disappointed with that, but then I think what North Korea really wants right now is not this hypothetical end state in which North Korea could be acknowledged as an official state, official nuclear state, sorry. But then North Korea is more interested in seeing Russia's support for North Korea's approach towards denuclearization negotiation, which is going to be step by step and simultaneous denuclearization and denuclearization of North Korea, and security assurances coming from the United States. So, I mean, that's what North Korea needs right now, and also some sort of expression, not just expression, but action on the part of Russian government to help North Korea economically, essentially by evading sanctions. So probably North Korean leader got the first objective. I'm sure Putin would be happy to express support for North Korean negotiation approach. But when it comes to the second part of economic assistance, that probably didn't come about this meeting because this is a very challenging issue for Russia.
Now, we know that Russia has to stick to its international obligations as well, but it is also a veto-wielding member of the UN Security Council. And as you've mentioned, it has expressed support to North Korea's way of denuclearization, which is a step-by-step approach. Russia has also mentioned before that sanctions should be lifted according to North Korea's step-by-step denuclearization, meaning sanctions should be lifted to a certain extent along the way of the denuclearization. Do you think Kim Jong-un earned that support, reconfirmed that support this time?
I'm sure he got that support. I mean, in many ways, that was Russia's idea too. I mean, Russia and China and North Korea have agreed that that should be the approach towards denuclearization. The sequence, I mean, there's the small detail issue of a sequence of the lifting of the sanctions and denuclearization steps, but that was left to be negotiated between Pyongyang and Washington. But Russia, when it comes to the big concept of denuclearization, which is going to be step by step, that's been like a Russia's like a point for a long time.
Now, at the press briefing, Putin also said that what North Korea wants is its regime, guarantee of its regime survival. Your take on that?
Well, North Korea has always said that they will only give up their nuclear capability if there's enough assurances from the United States and the international community that North Korea wouldn't be threatened. And in many ways, this is essentially an argument that says that North Korea will hold on to its nuclear capability until the very end. So, I mean, in that sense, I mean, unless Russia makes an expressed support or like or explicit guarantee of North Korea's security, such as by extending Russia's nuclear umbrella to North Korea. I mean, this expression is just a reiteration of what North Korea has been saying for a long time. So it's by itself is not surprising. But then, if Russia surprises us by extending its nuclear deterrence to North Korea, then that would mean something.
Then that would be a different story. Now, when mentioning about North Korea asking for the guarantee of its regime survival, President Putin said that the matter should be discussed at the six-party talks, which has been stalled for a very, very long time. Does this mean that Russia wants to be back in the game?
Definitely, I mean, the six-party talks was a vehicle for actually China back then to have the center stage of the negotiation between Washington and Pyongyang. I mean, in a way, six-party talks was possible because Washington wanted to delegate the task of denuclearizing North Korea to China. So that's why six-party talk was possible. But then the downside of that was that United States and North Korea were treated as if they're equal parties to be blamed for the crisis in the Korean Peninsula. And that's the reason why, I mean, maybe that's something that attracts Russia to this idea, but that's exactly the reason why the United States is going to oppose to the idea of bringing back six-party talks or any multilateral framework to solve the nuclear crisis.
The Russian leader has also stated that Kim Jong-un has asked Putin to relay his message, to relay North Korea's stance to the leaders of China and the U.S. Now, we know that President Putin will meet with President Xi Jinping tomorrow at the One Belt, One Road Forum. But the question is, would there be a Russia-U.S. summit soon?
Well, there must be. I mean, there must be something happening soon. But then what really matters here is that essentially Kim Jong-un has empowered Putin with the idea of being an intermediary between Washington and Pyongyang. That was a role that President Moon of South Korea has been looking for and has actually assigned himself that would be his role. But then somehow Kim is empowering Russia to take that role, and then that's going to allow Russia to take the center stage on the negotiations. And we wonder why Kim is doing this in a way. I mean, in a way, I think Kim is maybe is disappointed with the South Korea's performance as an intermediary so far. In that sense, it has implications for the future of inter-Korean dialogue. So that'll be one. And then also, I think Putin, I think, will definitely talk to China, Chinese leader Xi Jinping about this. But then China and Russia, in many ways, are already on the same page when it comes to solving the nuclear crisis in the Korean Peninsula. So it will be no news to Xi Jinping that what Kim Jong-un told about Putin here. So I think this message is all about empowering Russia diplomatically.
Now, at the press briefing, which took just a few hours ago, President Putin stood alone to meet with the press, and Kim Jong-un was nowhere to be seen. What do you make of that?
Well, that was like pretty much the deja vu of Singapore and the Hanoi summit. And I think just like President Trump, I mean, Putin also wanted to get in a way, hog the spotlight. Didn't want to share the stage with Kim Jong-un, and by being the sole explainer of what happened, this like a close meeting between him and Kim Jong-un, essentially Putin has become dominates the narrative of the meeting and empowers him again. So I think that's why he liked the idea of giving a sole press briefing to the international media.
Now, let's look into the team that accompanied Kim Jong-un to Russia. North Korea has replaced its top nuclear negotiator, Kim Yong-chol, who has been the counterpart of U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and replaced him with Jang Geum-chol, a director at the ruling Workers' Party Central Committee. Reasons behind this replacement?
Well, I think it's not about, there are some stories that Kim Yong-chol has been replaced because essentially he took the blame for the failure of the Hanoi summit. I don't think that's the case. I mean, his name is still on the list of North Korean Politburo and all that. I think it's actually it's a North Korea's way of repositioning their people to gear up for the second phase of negotiation with the United States. This move essentially empowers the foreign ministry of North Korea, headed by Lee Yong-ho. And then Lee Yong-ho is an old American hand in North Korea. He completely understands the history of U.S. negotiation with North Korea. And I think Lee Yong-ho is going to use that experience to design a better diplomatic approach. And also he's going to exploit the logical problems in the American approach towards negotiation, which is that doesn't give room for negotiation actually, because it's demanding North Korea to unilaterally disarm. And I think Lee Yong-ho is going to use that as a logical contradiction, because if you want to negotiate, it has to be win-and-win situation. So he's going to employ that mechanism to convince Trump that the United States should assume the step-by-step approach again. So I think this is a repositioning of a North Korean diplomatic personnel, not a political blame game going on.
So this signals a possible lineup changes on the North Korean side in the future North Korea-U.S. nuclear negotiations.
That's right.
But what about U.S.? Do you think the U.S. will respond to North Korea's request for a change in their lineup of negotiators?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the United States is smart enough to understand that North Korean the demand to replace Pompeo with somebody else is just a way to signal the North Korea's discontent with the current U.S. administration's attitude towards Pyongyang. So if essentially North Korea is telling Washington to change its tune when it comes to talking to North Korea. So if Pompeo, for instance, changes his message towards North Korea, I'm sure Pyongyang will be very happy with that. He wouldn't mind Pompeo staying as a lead negotiator for denuclearization negotiations.
Now, one quick question before I let you go. How would today's Kim-Putin summit affect future North Korea-U.S. nuclear negotiations?
Well, not much, actually. I mean, in many ways, all the players here, in this case, Russia and North Korea, have reaffirmed their previous positions. And there's nothing, not much new stuff on the table, except for the fact that Putin brought up the idea of bringing back the multilateral framework for the denuclearization negotiations. Other than that, this is a sideshow, so to speak, in the ongoing impasse in negotiation between Pyongyang and Washington. And we can see that from the fact that this meeting took place not in the respective capitals of the countries, either capital of the countries, these two countries, but then in Vladivostok. And then for Putin, it's just a stop before going to Beijing. So yeah, that's probably the meaning of it.
All right, Dr. Ko, thank you so much for your perspectives today.
My pleasure again.
And that wraps up this edition of News in Depth. Thank you for being with us. We'll be back with more timely and interesting topics to discuss with an expert, same time tomorrow.